Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to League Unlock. My name is Eric, and it's basically a beautiful treat for every day from now until about October, maybe even November, because at the very least, every game is going to have huge playoff implications across the globe. Then we go into summer playoffs, Worlds qualifications, the actual World Championship. So this is obviously the best time to be paying attention to competitive League of Legends, and the craziest playoff race of them all right now, sorry North America, is obviously the LCK, with 7 teams vying for those 5 spots into the postseason, and they're all separated by 1 game at max. There's basically a 5-way tie, and with that, any of these matchups have huge implications, including Griffin versus Sandbox, who played way back in week 2, and it was Sandbox who got the better of Griffin. And for a while, both those teams were at the very top of the table at 7-1. Obviously, they've both been in a little bit of a slump as of late, but I mean, with how close teams are, obviously anytime any of these top 7 teams are playing each other in these head-to-head matchups, they're absolutely massive for your hopes and dreams of actually making playoffs and potentially making Worlds. In this series, it was Doran who got the start in the top lane, as he has for the last few series for Griffin over Sword, and you see the Ashe there for Viper. We got an Akali for Chovy, and a Doran playing the Gangplank. And 17 minutes in here, no kills. That is a very late first blood, ladies and gentlemen. That is some classic LCK. We're not talking about 2019. This is 2016 LCK with very late first bloods, and it does go over to Griffin that they grab it, and they are going to clean up the rest of this fight, or excuse me, it's Sandbox that's cleaning up this fight, and then they're going to grab an Infernal as well as the inner or outer turret, and then they go a little bit too far on Doran on the Gangplank. He does a great job killing a lot of time. Lahens comes in and saves him, and then Viper is here to dish out the DPS. You got a flank TP by Chovy. No kills for Sandbox to start that, and Griffin just comes in and completely annihilates Chovy on cleanup duty for it, and that is a lot of kills over to Griffin to get them very much back in this game. And Tarzan even grabs one more onto OnFleek. 4 kills, you best believe that's going to translate into a big purple worm. The Silas can only watch on the side as he sees the buff go away. And then a little bit later on, it's a Cloud Drake that Sandbox secures, and then they're forced into a fight. Well, Griffin has Baron buff. Why are you fighting or contesting over a Cloud Drake? Well, that is beyond my knowledge, apparently, because Sandbox decide it's a good idea. They do grab the dragon, but they lose a whole lot of members in the process. Probably not worth. Now 12 kills for Griffin, and it's another fight. Chovy, there's a Tom Kench ulti that completely catches the bot lane of Sandbox by surprise. Ghost and Joker both go down, and now that is more than enough for Griffin to push it down the mid lane. 2 Nexus turrets down, still 2+ minutes on that Baron buff. They easily knock down the Nexus to take game 1. That's more like the Griffin we're accustomed to seeing. The opposing team makes one mistake, they deliver on it and take game 1. Into game 2, this time Sandbox gets the Ashe. It's an Azir Corki matchup. Woohoo! Fun times. In the top lane, it actually was fun times for Sandbox. Summit on the Aatrox completely dunks Doran Silas to grab first blood in the 1v1, and OnFleek gave him some added attention. It was not a fun time in game 2 for Doran. Summit completely smashing him in that Silas Aatrox matchup, and then the Aatrox decides to take his talents to the mid lane. Chovy flashes at the very last second to survive, and here comes Doran on the Silas along with Tarzan, and they are ready for some kills onto OnFleek. Check out this Jarvan ulti, over the Azir ulti, the Emperor's Divide. Very clean from him, but Doran goes a little bit too deep. They do get Xin Zhao to fall, but Doran is left in a 1v2, and Summit, yes, dunks him yet again. And by the way, there's a Kog'Maw in this game for Viper. We didn't even talk about it. He can't land the Living Artillery to clean that fight up there, as Sandbox takes down a Baron, and it looks like maybe Griffin can exchange some kills in return for it because Viper on that Dogma as well as Corki for Chovy are left alive and pretty healthy to clean this one up. The W's down for Kog'Maw though, but they feel like they can still chase this one down with the Scuttle speed boost. Look how low Ghost is, but the Kog'Maw is out of mana. Chovy says, come on, man, we can clean this one up. On Fleek comes in, and they still think they can turn this 2v3 around, but you walked into melee range of the Aatrox, and you got dunked. Chovy and Viper also fall down to go with that Baron buff. Not exactly what you want to see with 4 dragons, 4 Sandbox, but still, they somehow managed to lose a fight pushing in to the Griffin base. It's a couple of kills to delay the Baron push and delay the game in favor of Griffin. But one more fight outside of the pit, and it is a flank from Summit that again is going to be absolutely devastating. He's zoning 2 different members. Lehens goes down. Viper does clean him up on the outside, but that's with the rest of his team completely being destroyed on the other side. The Kog'Maw does live, but eventually that's not enough to defend. When the Ash Arrow lands, they're going to finally kill the dog and then the Nexus turret. But the rest of Griffin is respawning. The Emperor's Divide, look how low everybody is. Dove flashes and does get the last auto onto the Nexus to force a decisive game 3, just like it went way back in week 2 when these guys first matched up again. No subs in the third game. You get Zoe versus Irelia. Great counter pick matchup for Chovy in this one. And early on, it's this time Doran on the Aatrox, and it's the similar thing. This time against the Jace, he's going to get first blooded with the help of On Fleek, and there was lots of action in that top lane, as was the theme in this entire series. This time, it is Sandbox who are getting TP'd upon. Who's that? Well, it's Viper on the Xayah who shows up in the top lane, and it works out beautifully for him. He grabs 1 kill. Doran does go down, but Viper's there for the double, and that's what you want, is to get your AD carry rolling oh so early on, as Sandbox is contesting the outer turret in the mid lane, and Griffin fancy themselves a fight, and they get just that in their favor. They don't even get the outer turret, does Sandbox, and they lose a couple of members, and then it's Griffin pushing onto the Baron. It is Summit who comes in 1v5 on the Jace and actually gets pretty close, but the smite is there for Tarzan. They grab a couple of kills on the way out as well. Zoe just left to run away because there's 5 members of Griffin. And with the Baron buff, they couldn't quite close it out with 1. So there was still some fights that were going on in this mid lane. Viper, you see how disgustingly fed those crits are. That's a very powerful Xayah, probably because of the TP so early on in the game. And Chovy is flashing in. He's diving deep for some of these kills. The chase seemed to last an eternity here, but you're in the base here. Chovy's all alone. His team would help him out and get him out of there. The secret mission, and then Summit again is going down on the Jace. Griffin looks like they've done enough despite the early advantage in the top lane. Summit completely had his way with Doran throughout the entirety of this series, but wasn't enough. Griffin get it done in the third game. They kind of stopped the slide. They looked better in this series against some top competition in Sandbox, who now are quietly in a slide of their own. And with that, 1 win, a single win, Griffin were 6th place coming into this best of. They skyrocket all the way to 2nd, ahead of even SKT, even though they have the same +9 game record. The next thing you're looking at for tiebreakers is the head-to-head matchup, and they did split the season series, Griffin and SKT 1-1, but because Griffin won the first series 2-0, then they win that head-to-head. They have that tiebreaker, so that's something to pay attention to as this insane playoff race gets down to the wire. That's how the head-to-head tiebreakers will be working amongst a lot of these teams, but the madness only gets crazier here with 6 teams now sitting at 9-5, which is just absolutely insane. You got SKT and Afrika that's going to happen over the weekend, but for now, Griffin looking like they're slowly returning back to form. You expected more of a dominant performance from Chovy on Irelia. Didn't get it, but Viper got MVP in Game 3, deservedly so for that Xayah performance.